2 minutes. Well, today has been a disaster of a day. So I've just arrived at a location that I want to shoot, and I'm way too late for the light. I mean, I think we've got about another hour of daylight even. It's just been a disaster of a day. Getting the van fixed overran. You may notice that I look like complete crap. I think it's an allergic reaction to something, but it may be a flu type thing. So I'm in the process of making myself a Lemsip. I feel like rubbish. Yeah, complete disaster of a day. Ugh. Right, let me get this Lemsip in, and then we'll see about getting out with the camera for a few minutes. Oh, and to make a pretty shoddy day, feel even worse, the little LED light has once again fallen off this GoPro, and I think this time my eyes are watering. It looks like I'm crying over a lost LED light. Well, we're out anyway. In fact, I've been out for a while. I just retraced my steps to see whether I could find the little LED light, but no joy. That is a complete... Oh, this day can just go and do one. This day is just getting better and better. Now, I have no idea what I've just recorded there, but it looks like I recorded it in time warp mode. So I'm not sure whether the bit that I did the camera, the fact that I've lost my little LED light off the GoPro, it's just been one disaster after another. Anyway, I'll keep this one short because I've just yabbered all this anyway. There's a few little sort of movements in the waves. There's a couple of surfers heading out as well, braver men than me. Now, Tory Island's out the back here. I don't really want to include any landmarks. So what I'm thinking is a little square image. And the waves, because the waves are hitting off the pier here, they're kind of coming back on themselves. And at times you get like a nice sort of, a couple of sort of zigzaggy sort of diagonal lines. So I'll see what we can do. We'll throw out the camera, get the camera out, and we'll see whether we can make something. But today can just go and do one. That's the long and the short of it, really. So there's definitely every time I go to talk to you, I'm going to sneeze. Maybe I'm allergic to YouTube. Hang on. So there's definitely it's not the right word, but there's definitely an image or a sort of a stage of the wave that doesn't work and a stage of the wave that may work. As the wave gets very sort of washed up and white and frothy, that's definitely not what I'm wanting. I'm wanting more just as it's just turning over before it really kind of gets into a sort of mashed up state. I think that just creates too much just nothingness in the frame. It's funny actually because I've got this vision, you know, looking straight down the barrel of the waves here. There's just some lovely patterns, but I just can't seem to get it. At the moment I'm shooting in that square format. Maybe I need to go back to a 3x2 and maybe include some of the sky, even though it's all very nondescript. But what I need to do is stop sneezing. Is sneezing part of the illness that we don't mention on this channel? I don't know. Right, let's get back to it. So I've kind of given up with the idea of just shooting into the waves. I just don't think it was working. So I've actually brought myself down to the water's edge now. Now, there are a few bigger waves coming through, so I'm just keeping an eye on that because it's one of those kind of shelf beaches that, you know, if a wave was to come up here, I'd be like, oh! But some of the lovely patterns. I love this beach because there are some lovely marbled stones and boulders around. So I'm kind of, again, I'm still shooting in the old square format. And I'm kind of trying to pick out, there's a stone just down here that's got some lovely patterns on it. And I'm using that as kind of a bit of an anchor in the image. and then waiting until the waves on the top of the frame are kind of rolling out a little bit, just to give a little bit of interest. But not a lot really to say about it, to be honest. But it's funny though, and again I keep saying this here, it's one of the reasons why I wanted to do these 30 days creative. I'm having a pretty shitty day, as I've said, for a whole manner of reasons. But getting in behind the camera, I really can feel things just kind of fall away a little bit. Might only be a temporary fix, but it is quite nice when you kind of have had those battles all day, and then behind the camera just seems to sort of zone you a little bit. So, right, well, I'm going to carry on working on a composition here with some of these patterned rocks, and if I get something, we'll come back and chat about it. So actually, just a little tip. Notice on the back of the camera here that I'm actually shooting in manual exposure, but whenever there's no waves around, it looks like I'm actually underexposing the image, and that's because I know, in fact, here comes a wave now. Maybe not. As the waves really do sort of break over those stones, obviously there's a lot more brightness brought into the image, and that naturally will raise the sort of the exposure. So if I was to expose to the image without any waves in it, and then take the image once the waves come in, I would obviously be overexposing the image. So just a little tip, if you're sort of working by the coast, it's good to get a baseline exposure reading without any of the sort of white water in there, and see what it is when the white water comes in, and underexpose it by that amount, which means that when the frame is filled with waves, you shouldn't clip any highlights. That light's certainly dropping now. I think sunset is probably in about 15-20 minutes. So there's a really nice kind of pattern, I think, a natural pattern being sort of created by the movement of the waves, sort of left to right at the top of the frame. If I switch over to the old trusty iPhone, hang on. If you just watch how the wave movement from left to right, hopefully here, as the waves sort of come in and around, I think that's creating some nice sort of patterns, just as the waves sort of wash out. So that's kind of what I'm waiting for, trying to get sort of a little bit of the movement here at the bottom of the frame, but also the movement in and around this top rock, which hopefully is acting as a little bit of another anchor at the top of the frame. Yeah, it's a real shame we didn't really have any much light to play with, but I guess there's always tomorrow. Hopefully I haven't sneezed myself into some kind of oblivion. But yeah, this is just a nightmare. I'm going to go back, stick the heating on in the van, and pour myself another Lemsip. Oh. And this is halfway through 30 days creative. Another 15 days to go. And hopefully, the next 15 will be a little bit more interesting than the previous 15. So, right, over and out. Let's finish on another sneeze, eh?